Brailer weights is a big issue in Bristol Bay, and we wanted to look at this issue as well. And so what I wanted to look at was low brailer weights, medium-sized brailer weights, and then relatively heavy brailer weights. And I wanted to look also at whether it made sense to have two brailers in one hold or one brailer in one hold. As you know, a lot of people who are trying to get under that 1,000-pound limit per brailer will just basically take two brailers, put them in the same fish hold, and then do a double lift. They're lifting up 2,000 pounds in two brailers when the brailers are full. So does that 1,000-pound brailer make any difference? Well, the answer appears to be anyway, that if you try to keep your brailer weights low, you're really getting a pretty good result. Your results in number ones are almost identical with a 175-pound brailer to those very good fish that we saw earlier in the study, the benchmark fish. Very, very good. Really no significant difference at all, keeping our brailer weights low. Once we get to a 500-pound brailers, two of them in one hold, we start to get 1,000 pounds in a hold. We're seeing our percentage of number ones drop considerably, percentage of number twos and number threes increased. In some cases, we had fishermen who didn't have RSW in their boats. They were using ice, slush ice. And in this case, there was a fellow who would deliver his fish in one 500-pound brailer per fish hold because he needed to have a lot of ice around his fish. So he didn't put two brailers in the hold when he could get away with it, when he needed to have one. So in this case, we had a little better percentage of number ones, and lower percentages of number twos and number threes. So I think that the difference was that he had not so much the slush ice, but he was using one brailer per hold. So look at that two 500-pound brailers in one hold, the middle grid right there, and we're going to flip to the next page. Here we have 1,000-pound brailers with two brailers in one hold, and the number of number ones, 57%, basically identical to the previous one at 58%. These numbers are statistically insignificant. They're same kind of ballpark. One fisherman that I was working with, he developed a spreader bar system to try to make his brailers more rigidly box-like, so they wouldn't kind of pooch in at the top end. And he had 2,000-pound brailers with spreader bar, and there was really no difference. It was pretty much the same between with or without a spreader bar. Bleeding and chilling, of course, are huge issues in Bristol Bay, particularly chilling. I think the jury has definitely come back in on the chilling question. We all know very few people would doubt that chilling is an excellent way to add value to fish. But bleeding is a question that a lot of people have asked, is it worth it? And the answer is yes, it is. I was surprised by this. I thought, oh, if a fish has been dead for a few hours, what's the point of going through the motion of bleeding the fish? But in fact, my studies show that we can have significant improvements in the percentage of number ones if we bleed the fish, even if they're dead, because there is this residual blood pressure in the fish, and because the blood will not clot right after the fish dies, it takes a while for the blood to clot. So bleeding the fish, even after the fish has been dead for a while, makes sense. Here we're seeing 42% number ones, whereas our average for 500 pounds, two brailers in a 500-pound fish hold, previously it was 58% number ones, 57, 58. No bleeding, no chilling fish in a dry hold. Look at the percentage of number ones here. It really drops. Now, we had a very warm summer last year in Bristol Bay in 2009, and I think that the warm water and just dropping the fish in the dry fish hold had a huge impact on the quality of the fish. But it's pretty clear to me that not bleeding and not chilling has a very negative effect on the fish hold, particularly not on the fish quality, particularly not chilling. Soak time. How long is your net in the water? It seems pretty clear, it's pretty obvious that the shorter the soak, the greater the quality of the fish. There's less time for the fish to be suspended dead in the water, less opportunity for the net to get towed around and the fish to get double gilled or bagged or whatever, less opportunity for the fish to get drug on the mud. It's just a short soak seems pretty clear to produce higher quality fish. Once we get to longer soaks, 75-minute soaks, we start to see a diminution of the quality of the fish. Of course, we're still looking at one 500-pound brailer, In this particular case, whereas the 18-minute soak, because we didn't catch very many fish, obviously, we're dealing with a 300-pound brailer. And then once you get down to a 3-hour soak, these are real long, old sort of sleeper soaks. A 3-hour soak, which is about as much as you can get in Igigik, the percentage of number ones drops considerably. So soak times, keep your soaks short, and keep your brailer weights low, and maybe try to go with 1 brailer per fish hold if you can, is the message so far. Dropping on deck. A lot of people will shake their fish out of the gill net, drop it on the deck, kick it in the fish hold, and this can cause some real problems too. What I asked these fishermen to do was to separate out the fish that they had dropped on the deck, make sure that they dropped every single one of the fish in the sample on the deck, 1 brailer in the fish hold, and then to take a rubber mat that was about 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet, about 3/4 of an inch thick, and put a couple of these rubber mats down on the stern right there in front of the stern roller. And then the third experiment was to carry the fish from the net and place the fish into the brailer. And so here we see it makes sense. If you drop them onto the hard deck and kick them in the fish hold, we've got 44% number ones, which is, your average is around 58%. So that's a difference between, dropping and not dropping, I guess. Some fish obviously will be dropped hard, and other fish will be just tossed into the fish hole, for example. But once we drop them onto a rubber mat or carry them, our percentage of number ones goes up considerably. Tender differences. Once you offload your fish as a fisherman, you put them on tenders, and the ways that the fish are handled on the tenders can significantly impact the delivery, the value of the fish when they're delivered at the plant. In this case, I looked at 2 different tenders that were alternating in Igigik, and one tender would spill the fish right into dry checkers. Basically, they'd weigh the fish, then drop them into a dry checker, and then a guy would get there with a shovel or a push broom and push the fish into a relatively small hole, and then they would go down into the RSW. Whereas tender B pulled the hatch covers off its RFW tank and dangled the brailers right over the RSW, pulled the release, and the fish dropped right into the RSW. And you can see that there is a difference between these 2 tenders. I believe that the difference is due to the way that they were handled on the boats. Primarily, I think that dropping them onto a hard deck affects the quality, and that dropping them into the RSW doesn't hurt the quality as much as dropping them onto a hard deck, or maybe it has a positive impact in terms of not continuing the degradation of the fish. So my conclusions are that stern hauls can be very hard on the fish. Lower brailer weights and 1 brailer per hole can equal better quality. Chilling and bleeding certainly enhance quality. The longer the neck soaks, the poorer the quality, and not dropping the fish at all, or maybe dropping them onto a rubber mat. We're going to do some more experiments in 2010, I think, and 2011, hopefully, to verify this. But maybe dropping them onto a rubber mat are certainly better than dropping them onto the fish onto the deck. So my idea for getting the biggest bang for your buck, okay, so what can you do to improve your percentage of number ones this doesn't cost you a lot? And bleeding and chilling certainly should make a huge difference. 60% versus 16% number 1 quality on average for fillets. I think also it'd be great to distribute the catch among all your brailers to try to keep each brailer weight as low as possible. Don't drop your fish on the deck. Use a rubber mat. We need some more samples to verify this, but I think that not dropping the fish on the deck, trying to handle the fish gently when they're being pulled out of the net and being placed in the fish hold, that seems like a no-brainer too. And finally, work with your processor, work with your tenderman, point out the areas where there needs to be improvement on the tenders. Once you offload those fish, you may cease to be responsible for them, but your retroactive bonus depends in large measure on the value of the fish, the pack that your processor sells. And if the tendermen are removing layers of value, they're not doing you any favors, nor are they doing themselves or the industry any favors. So I'd recommend that people keep their eyes open for ways to improve not just themselves, which we all should do, but also to look at the tenders as well.